Okay.
Christina, the director. You shut that. Bye, Eddie.
Oh, Christina's like, wait a second. Hi. Where are you going?
Is this your? I thought that was my phone.
It's mine. I was recording.
Oh, it's so late. It's after work. I thought it was my phone. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, I'm taking off.
Yep.
I'll push you again.
Thanks, Chief.
Hey, I have to go do a soil sample for stock.
Okay.
Whoever his friend is, can give me your name
Don't
to pinpoint. But if you just have time tomorrow or anytime soon,
Thursday, what time? Well, look, just
whenever,
text me.
I'll get a hold of you.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. So you just, I thought you're good. All right, Randy and I are going to do a freak update. Probably, this was one of the most horrendous things that I've seen in the 6-month period of time here for a number of reasons. Let me start from the beginning. So, well, let me just preface that. Horrendous because of what we saw in terms of contamination, but also horrendous in terms of what nefarious things are going on here because the EPA is not only, sometimes they'll say the EPA is either they've hired the most inept people or they're lying to us. The EPA is not stupid. You don't get to those ranks, the people that work there, by not being intelligent. I think they're actually pretty smart, and Randy will probably attest they're always 10 steps ahead of us.
Exactly.
So let's start from the beginning. So, the bridge replacement, we're talking a small bridge. I mean, most of you are from East Palestine, but the journalists aren't. So the entrance to the park, the East Palestine Park, there's a small 2-lane bridge. It's very old, so they got a grant. This is the park where I'm almost 100% sure this is what's happened here. The city got a grant to replace this bridge, and this is what I heard, if it wasn't done by the end of this year, they lost that grant. So this is the timeline, they've got a few months to replace it. So they were going to replace the bridge, and we didn't know when. And I was actually, what I'm going to tell you next, I was surprised to see because I didn't know that was going to happen so quickly. But a few days before they were to replace the bridge, so Randy and I are always in the creeks. 6 months we're in the creeks, sometimes 5-6 days a week. Sometimes we skip a week because we're sick or we don't feel well or we got rashes on us because of the water. So a couple days before they tore the bridge down, I'm down there right under the bridge, poking in the soil, and there's chemicals just coming out of the soil. And I said in my mind, if they do tear this bridge down, they're going to release a hell of a lot of chemicals because those chemicals are all in the soil in the bank in the creek bed. Ironically, I don't work Mondays, but I was driving past the park early on Monday. Our lives are 6 months behind. You can all attest to this. We're behind in our chores, in our home life. Most of us have so much to catch up on. I had planned everything out to do that Monday, and as I drive past the park, I see a crane and other stuff. They're starting to knock the bridge down. And I'm like, there is no way I can stop. I don't have the time. So I called Randy, and I said, Randy, they're knocking the bridge down, man. Can you go take a look and film? And without him, if he didn't go down there, none of us would know about this fish kill that happened 2 weeks ago.
Your contact on that. I actually was down there 2 times that day. First time I went down, they weren't demolishing the bridge. They weren't doing anything with it yet. So I came back, went down about 4 hours later, and that's when the fish kill was down here. So the fish kill happened within at least 4 hour time period.
Yes. So I believe I called you early in the morning because I was just getting my day started. Had to get a whole bunch of stuff because ironically, the person we had to meet, a Time reporter, Time magazine or Time, internet, I'm not quite sure how it works now. Actually, Time, yeah, no, I know, but I don't know that people here know that you're there.
Yeah.
But we can cut this part out. But somebody came in, your dad came in with the Bruce Lee 50th anniversary. Was that Time magazine? Okay, I'm wrong. I thought it was Time magazine. Okay, forget that.
Don't know.
So let's get back to the water. He just gave it to me yesterday. I thought it was Time magazine did a thing on Bruce Lee. So anyway, might have been life, but so let me get back to that. So Randy, I haven't heard back from Randy. I called him early in the morning, and he's out there. He went once, then he went back again. Meanwhile, the Time reporter was at our house taking a photograph of my wife and I. And she asked me several times, hey, can you take me to the creek in the couple of weeks that we talked about taking photographs? And I said, I'm sorry, I'm done with that because I don't feel well when I go in the creeks and things like that. Well, when she was at our house, I was thinking, somebody on a national level has to see this stuff. We have to have it shown. So when we wrapped up that little photo shoot at our house, I said, do you want to go to the creek? And she said, yes. So we went down to what's called Sulphur Run. The chemicals were very bad, but they're always bad because they try to trap them there with booms, and they were very bad. And she said, is there a more natural setting or something like that? She wanted to see, so I said, let's go way down into Leslie. I don't know what we're going to see. I remember starting to get into my truck and I'm texting Randy.
It's because I asked you, you told me about fish dying, and
Yeah,
I said, oh, where is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
But as I'm in the creek, I said, let's go down and check out Leslie, and I text him, because I wanted a more natural setting without the booms. So that was in between when I said we started leaving the creek, I'm texting Randy, and I said, hey, do you see anything or something? And he answers back almost, I think it was 3 words, we got dead fish. And I said, oh, shit, we're going down to Leslie then. So we jump in the car, and I remember it's about to thunderstorm. It's getting real dark. It's getting real dark out, and I don't know how much time we have. So we head down, and this is what we see. We meet, well, actually, it was cool because Randy was done for the day. He went home, he actually met us, so that's another great, he's always on the spot. So he came back down into the creek, and we went, and here's what we see. When I got there, we know the difference. There was some scum, there was some debris from the bridge, but more than that, there were chemicals everywhere. There were chemicals floating on the surface of the creek. As you walked through the creek, chemicals would come up. And then she has some photographs of some of the most horrendous chemical contamination when we pick up some rocks. It was flowing out like someone was like just squirting it out with a hose. But we also saw, I estimate at least 125, maybe over 100 dead fish and crayfish. They were all littered on the bank. They were buried under the water. So as we're seeing this, and Rebecca and Randy, they're photographing, we're all photographing, chemicals everywhere. There's something that I've learned, Randy knows, and now we all know this now. A couple months prior, I've never seen any footage of the area of Sulphur Run, the footage that I had shown so bad. I'm standing on a tree limb, shooting down, and the chemicals are just coming out. When I released that video, at that point, Sulphur Run was quite deep. When I released that video, I went back 2 days later, and the creek was completely dry. They sucked it dry. It did not dry out on its own. I'll tell you how they sucked it dry. But why would somebody, Norfolk, the EPA, why would they want to suck a creek dry? Because they did no cleaning there. It's because without the water, we cannot expose the chemicals. We don't have fancy testing stuff. We have sticks, and we kick things so that the chemicals go into the water. So you hear comments like, he's crazy. He's conspiracy theorist. You're going to find out why that is not a conspiracy theory for what we have on film with their sucking pumps in a minute. So, anyway, we're down there filming, okay? Randy releases a video that night. That's a Monday night, okay? Tuesday morning, the EPA, ODNR, and whoever else they have converge on that site. And here's their report of what they saw on Wednesday morning in the Morning Journal, okay? So somebody texts me this article Wednesday morning, and it is Wednesday night. This is my work night. I get off at 6 o'clock usually, okay? So they text me this before I leave for work, and I read this disgusting article in the Morning Journal, and before I get to work, I run to the Circle K, and I buy a Morning Journal to get this article, with the intent of holding that article, that newspaper, while we're in the creek filming, okay, that night. That was my intent, to go. So I buy the paper, work all day. Let me tell you what the paper says. The EPA says, and ODNR, the EPA says this is so much to unpack. Because they say that is a city project, a ODOT project, has nothing to do with the EPA. Therefore, they're not going to test for any chemicals. They have nothing to do with this project. They didn't smell any chemicals. Now, I don't know when the sense of smell became a certified EPA test. Okay? So therefore, that's another reason they didn't do any testing, any chemical testing. And lastly, they saw no evidence of chemicals. As far as they're concerned, there's the video, you'll read the article. A representative for the EPA said that there is no evidence of chemical contamination in Leslie Run, below the derailment. Okay? All right, so we get off. I am so pissed. I am so pissed. I mean, that's all I could think about all day during work. I am so pissed. This is the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. They have the word protection in their name. The only one they're protecting is Norfolk Southern. They are not protecting us, people of East Palestine, residents. They are lying to you. They are lying. And I'll tell you why they're lying. So, not only did we produce those chemicals the night of the fish kill, we got there, in the process of 4 hours, those fish died. Now, on that day, as I'm walking through the creek making my own film, and Randy agrees with this, I believe, stop me if I'm wrong, we don't know what killed those fish. We don't know if, they got suffocated when they dropped the debris in. As the EPA says, or the ODNR says, it was probably a pH change. Who knows? Maybe the concrete did something. But they say there were no chemicals there. Now, we don't know if the chemicals killed them. That's not what we're saying. We are saying there was massive chemical contamination in that creek that night of the fish kill. And I believe the Time reporter would also agree with us. But they said they saw no evidence of chemicals the next morning. We go down 2 days after they were there, and we're walking through the creek with paper in hand, filming chemicals just coming up all over our feet. We're moving rocks. Chemicals are just spewing out of the rocks at the fish kill 2 days later. They're lying to you. Okay, so every time Randy and I go in the creeks, and this has happened for 6 months, and it just happened again because we found another hot spot of chemicals and we took News Nation down today. Here's what happens. We say, we don't really believe this, but it's probably over. It's not going to get any worse than this, and we can back off. There's nothing more to find. It just can't keep happening. And then every other day or every week, we find more chemicals and more chemicals. So after this, I'm saying, I might even be done. I was going to make a video of me throwing my waders in the dumpster here, because it's just not a healthy thing to do. And who knows what's going to happen to us 3, 5, 7 years from now. But Randy texts me, or he calls me, I cannot remember. Or I text him. I always text, hey, Grant, updates? And he says, you tell me what he said. I don't remember. It's when you saw the chemicals in the pit at the bridge. Now, we're at the fish kill again. Is this 2 weeks later?
Yeah,
a week later?
Yeah, fish kill was on 8/7. This was the 27th?
Yeah, so we're talking 2 weeks later.
About 2 weeks later, yes.
All right? Yeah. And Randy texts me something, and he can correct me something like, chemicals are horrible.
Yeah, or something, you're gonna wanna see this. or
Yeah,
something.
dude, I just want to see this. This is at right where we were, where that fish kill was, okay? So I said, okay, I'll meet you. It was Friday. It was a Friday night. It was a Friday night. I'm at work, and I'm like, oh shit, I gotta stop down, and Tammy's gonna kill me, and I gotta get my waders. When I get down to meet Randy at the bridge, that bridge is now gone. It is a cliff. It drops right down, and keep in mind when you look right down, that's where I was poking right under the bridge, producing chemicals. So what I see is a 4-foot wide by 10-foot long, 5-foot depression. I estimate it to be 5 foot because it's now filled with water. Water's crystal clear. A little bit of water because it's right next to the bank. Some water is flowing into it and some water is flowing out. However, something funny. Somebody tried to build a dam right in front of it to stop water flowing into it. And somebody also piled up rocks to stop water flowing out. So there would be no water flowing from the dam into the... So what was this? This was one bucketful. One, why do I always forget? And I have a tractor. It's on the front end. But the backhoe.
Backhoe, yeah.
One big backhoe scoop that these workers took out, and then they stopped. And why did they stop? And I'll tell you why they stopped. This is our theory, my theory. So when Randy took me down there, he said right down in that hole, he was still up there filming from the ridge. As I walked by this hole, and we took Eve down, and the same thing was happening when we took her down the next day. As I started walking up to the depression, just my weight of my body was making chemicals ooze out into this depression. I hit the side wall of this pit, and some of the worst chemical contamination we've seen in 6 months came out, okay? But we noticed something else. When I came down there, I said, excuse me, Tammy says, quit swearing in your videos. I said, what is all this shit? And he said, well, these pumps, they're like the size of a small bedroom. They look like miniature shipping containers. They've got pumps on the side of the creek. With a pump going, 2 of the intake valves going into a vertical, you know what we would use for a culvert? A massive, probably a 4-foot in diameter plastic culvert that is sitting in the ground, submerged under the creek. It's at least a foot under the water, okay? They have a tube going into that to suck water out, although we at this point have never seen it turned on until later. And then the output of that pump goes into 2 large PVC pipes, looks like the Alaskan pipeline, and that takes the water that they're sucking out at the confluence where Sulphur Run hits Leslie. As Sulphur Run would come in, that's right where that culvert is. They would suck water out to shove down the creek, bypass that whole bank that we found in the soaking where they were working. And then we're going to get into why we believe they're bypassing that bank. But we've never seen that pump on, and I'm looking and I said, what is that shit? And Randy says, well, I looked on the internet. Each one of those pumps, and keep in mind they have 2 of them, each one can pump up to 12 to 15,000 gallons per minute for this small creek, okay? So anyway, I'm back to the point where I start walking up and I hit this bank and I say, holy shit, you can hear it on film because we're filming. But Randy, this is the worst I've seen in 6 months. Why is this important? Because, number one, and I'll tell you about how the chemicals a little bit more, but number one, it is foolish to think that whoever used that bulldozer had some kind of divining rod to just happen to find chemicals in that one spot and they're nowhere else. We propose that these chemicals are all along those miles of creek, okay? We just can't get to them now because they're sinking so much lower into the soil. All we have are sticks and shovels, and we cannot produce them like that a backhoe would. They gave us a gift in this, where they revealed, almost like a geological study going down here, the lower you go, the more you poke, the more chemicals come out. So these chemicals are spewing out. The other problem here is that I got a little distracted. So anyway, okay, so we got that. So we have the fact that if they were to do this even 50 feet up the bank, we believe that the same thing would happen. So it's just convenient that Randy and I were able to see that deep depression. So here's the thing. We made a pact that night. We're not releasing anything, because they're going to come and they're going to spot clean, which does nothing to clean up. It just makes it so that we cannot see the chemicals, okay? We can't display them for people. We're not going to do a thing. We're going to film multiple times a day. We're going to come morning and night the next few days. That must have been Sunday that you met us. It had to be Sunday. And the reason I know that is because we weren't going to tell a soul until I tell you what happened. Saturday after work, we meet. We have, between the two of us, we have 4 hours of the most horrendous chemical contamination that we've seen in 6 months. We meet Saturday after work. I work till noon, probably met you around 2 o'clock. So we go down, we're just banging away. All these chemicals are coming out. Now, the problem is, the amazing thing about this hole is that normally when we look in the creek and we hit, we're going to exhaust that area in about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. I've never really seen anything last more than 15 minutes. Would you agree?
I agree.
We filmed for over 2 hours each time we went there, and those chemicals did not stop seeping out. And here's my theory why. Because they dug that deep depression, those chemicals are so low now in the soil, and those chemicals were coming from, they're flowing from around this one backhoe depression. And they're filling up, this whole depression was just filled completely with chemicals. So we filmed 2 hours. I'm going to say probably 2 hours. We came back Saturday night because we want to get it all. And those pictures are beautiful. I call them our Van Gogh pictures because the sun was coming down and it looks like starry night. You have all these chemicals. If they weren't so deadly and toxic, it would be beautiful. We go back Saturday night because we want to get a different view. When the moon hits the chemicals, they take on a different hue. So we go down Saturday night, we're doing our stuff, and a worker comes down, right? And I don't know what she does, we just know that she's on her phone. And then a black SUV comes. And they say, hey, what are you guys doing? You got to leave. And we say, well, who are you? We're CTEH. And I don't know if you all know who CTEH is, but that is the company that Norfolk Southern has contracted to do their chemical testing and things. So you can look up their reputation if you'd like. They're saying you got to leave. Well, why do we have to leave? It's you guys are breaking the law. Well, who says so? This caution tape says so. That caution tape doesn't mean anything. So we're nice. Actually, Randy's a little nicer than me. He's good. Okay? But when somebody is putting our lives in danger and they're doing this, I don't feel, I'm a pretty happy guy, but I get kind of, and that day I was kind of pissed, and I was pissed at one, or maybe that wasn't you, that was Senator Vance, but, so, I get angry with this stuff. So, he's telling us that we need to leave, and he's on the phone with security. And I remember saying, hey, where do you live? I said, people, this isn't our people's yards. I live right here, we're on a well. All these people down the stream are on a well. You're not concerned for people that, well, I live by a small creek too, and we're not pro-Norfolk, and we're not anti-Norfolk. We're here for the health of the people. And I didn't think of it at that point, but I asked Randy, if this guy's here for the health of the people, why is he calling the head of security to get us the hell out of there, instead of calling their head toxicologist and say, wow, look what these guys just found, a shitload of chemicals. We should probably get down here and check this out.
I even asked him. I know you see them chemicals from where you're standing. He shook his head.
He shook his head. He wouldn't verbally say yes.
He wouldn't verbally say yes.
He's up there shaking his head. I see the chemicals. So these chemicals are flowing out. Finally, he says, security says you can stay. Don't mess with our equipment, and we don't want you getting hurt. We say, we're outdoorsmen. We're not going to get hurt down in this creek. So, it was actually a polite ending, but I don't like their motives, no matter how polite they are. So then here's what we said. Oh shit, we got caught. We're going to call people. We can't hide this anymore because they're going to come do their shit, which they ended up doing. So this is Saturday night. I think I get on, I said, we walk up to the van. I said, Randy, we're caught,
Yeah.
we need to contact people, people need to see this. So I called Jamie Wallace, I don't have any contacts, she has like 1 million. Here's some sad stuff, and, she contacted so many reporters, nobody gives a shit, nobody wants to come out, alright? We did have WTAE come out, which was really nice. Our local affiliates, WFMJ, WKBN, nobody came out. I'm forgetting somebody because she's going like this. I don't know what you mean. Oh, no, I didn't mention News Nation because this is not, I'm going chronological.
Oh.
News Nation wasn't there yet. I will not forget about Rich McHugh's or his booth. But, so we had 2 people come out. There was a woman, Stephanie, that works for the Morning Journal. She came out later Sunday night, but the person that met us only person that met us Sunday morning was Eve, an environmental bloggist, or if you have another, I'm so sorry, environmentalist.
I've been an environmental journalist. I'm a freelance
I'm so sorry, I don't know those terms. So an environmental journalist, and you're from Pittsburgh, right?
Yes.
On a moment's notice, Jamie talked to her maybe in the morning or something, I don't even know.
Hillary contacted me.
Okay, Hillary contacted you, and then that's why Randy and I don't do this stuff. We don't want to offend anybody. We would rather just hang back and film in the creeks. I'm like in meetings and stuff, I'm not. But Hillary contacted Eve, who's an environmental journalist from Pittsburgh, and she said, she came right down. She probably had other plans that day. She came down, and she filmed. And I have her on film saying, oh my God, this is gross. I just remember that line. I don't know what else you said. But Eve is very thin. She's very slender. And as she's kneeling on the pit next to, just her body weight is making chemicals come out into this pit. It's that bad. So that was Saturday morning. Now we're going to go start Sunday morning. Now we're going to go to Sunday night. After Eve left, the only other reporter to answer and come was the local East Palestine news reporter, the Morning Journalist, who's been so good and so fair and unbiased about what's going on here, Stephanie Elder. She met us. This is insane. All these hours, okay? Oh, but I forgot, the cops were called before that as well. Because they were called because they were called with Stephanie. That was the guy that it was not Stephanie, but he was not so nice.
Yeah.
There was a cop called on Saturday, CTH called the cops.
Yeah.
So there was a cop, not only did CTH, they called the police on us too, not just their security. The police stopped down on Saturday night before we left, and they said, the policeman was really nice. He said, what are you guys doing? We're just filming. He said, hey, I don't know why they call us. Let them do your stuff. You're filming. Don't break any rules. Really good. So that's the one police call, okay? Saturday night. So back to Stephanie Elverd. It's about 7 o'clock. I said, don't meet us too early. These chemicals really shine in the moonlight. Or as it starts to get dark. So she meets us at 7:30. We start walking down the road to the creek. As we're walking down, I start to get next to the creek. I start putting my mask on. I see a white truck coming down the hill from the park. Guy jumps out. He goes and turns the pumps on. We've never seen these pumps on. All right? Now, what are the odds of somebody, as we are coming down to the creek, that they come down and he comes over and he turns the pumps on? And we say, oh shit, they're going to drain the creek on us. So in real time, I'm filming these pumps as Randy is, and it's stuck in the culvert. In less than 2 minutes, the entire creeks are dry. They're dry. The guy comes over, he's laughing at us, he is filming us, okay, he's filming us, and he's saying something about, oh, I'm saying, you turn those on because we're on. No! And then he's laughing. Am I forgetting anything yet?
I don't think.
And when this happened,
remember he told us he was an ODOT employee. Remember when he was down with Tsai?
I don't remember saying that. So he
Okay.
said he was an ODOT employee, right? Okay, so Randy and I are trying to preserve the hole because meanwhile this pit, all the water's getting sucked out, and we're like, oh shit. So yes, EPA, we threw as many rocks as we could where the water was coming in and where it was being sucked out. We tried to preserve. That water dropped like that in the hole. But meanwhile, they're dry. The creek is dry. We still were able to produce chemicals for the reporter, Stephanie Elverd, that night. Very bad. So then the police, right, on Sunday night, so they drive the creek. He goes and checks the crane. Did you want to mention something about that, or do you want to wait because those aren't ODOT?
Yeah.
Those are not. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So he drains the creeks on us, and we'll talk about why those pumps are there. But he drains the creek on us, and then the policeman comes. I'm pro-police. This policeman wasn't so nice. Comes up to the caution, get out. You guys get out of there now. Not an exact quote, Randy, but pretty much.
Something,
Yeah. Not wanting to hear anything. So the reporter goes up and kind of honestly distracts him. I said, hey, I need to take a couple samples before. I'm going to get these samples. I'm not leaving without getting the samples. So I grabbed 2 sediment samples, and we have to leave. Okay? Let's talk about now. That was the end. We knew that was it. All right? And then we were pretty much banned from that site. And now we have to stay far away. So let's just wrap up some things here. The EPA, as I said about 2 hours ago when I started this, I didn't know I was going to talk so long. The EPA said they did not test because this is an ODNR, or it's a ODOT project, has nothing to do with them. So therefore, they're not testing for chemicals there. It's a city project. But yet, after we exposed the fish kill, what came there were 2 12,000 gallon per minute pumps that have the capability of sucking that creek dry in less than 2 minutes. There's no reason for those to be there on a small country, East Palestine, 2-lane, 40-foot bridge. There's no need for that. The only reason is that so whoever's doing this, Norfolk Southern, the EPA, CTEH, they can bypass that area that they're working so no water hits that as they're digging up. Because we said as soon as that fish kill happens, you and I kept saying to each other, man, you keep, I'm not going to reveal this part, how he knows what's going on with them, how he can know at a moment's notice, but what we kept saying to each other, man, when they start digging that creek up, we want to be there because we're going to film all the chemicals coming down the creek from their backhoes. And so they know that if they bypass that creek, you're not going to see anything. And there is a source at that site, where there's a source, okay? Because I don't want to... We said, what are these? There's steel things, corrugated steel, big, like you would imagine, big pieces of plywood, but only this is steel. The steel is so that they can put against the bank as they're working on this bridge, so that nothing comes out as they're working. There is no reason to, as they're digging up that bank, if that is not contaminated, there is no reason to have to stop material from falling into the creek. It's just not necessary. I'm not a bridge engineer, but I've got common sense. They now are putting vertical steel plates, large plates, so nothing can fall in. I'm going to imagine those will be removed once the bridge they serve no purpose but that. And also, now that we are filming them doing the construction site, whoever's doing this needs punished. Because the workers making fun of us right now currently that are filming, and they called the police on us again the other day, lying, saying we're in the construction zone. Oh, here's something funny. Well, let me stick with that for a second. They're laughing at us now. They're working without PPE. They're getting wet. You can see them getting in that dirt. They're either as dumb as we are, taking chances in the creek all the time, or they're misinformed, and they think we're conspiracy theorists. They're working in that contaminated dirt that they can't see all those chemicals in, just because it's moist now, and they can't see the chemicals coming out. That reminds me, what we believe happened initially with this pit, you don't just dig one shovelful and stop, all right? These chemicals, we're releasing what that looked like, because we have it all filmed. It was so bad, we believe someone took a scoop out and they said, oh shit, we gotta call somebody. And they stopped work completely. And that's why they left that pit open. But that's also open for any child to fall into. At that point, there's no sign saying stay out. You've got an open pit with 5 feet of water in it with chemicals just oozing all over it. So we're back to Sunday night. Okay, the cops come, and he's not nice, and we leave. Is that about where I was?
Yeah, it's about where you were.
So we're filming now people, and they're working in contaminated dirt. We're getting creeks sucked out in front of our eyes. The EPA, if that is not their project, who is putting these big sucking machines, sucking that thing around? Did I miss anything, Randy?
I don't think I'm okay. I'm going to the
Because I
little bit of knowledge that I have that I learned from down there.
go into what
Okay.
technology you have.
First, when they started to tear the bridge down, after this would have been what, Monday morning.
Monday morning.
Monday morning I went down.
Go ahead, keep going.
I wanted to be down there when they started, moving dirt. So I thought, I'm gonna catch it, see what they're doing. So I was down there. I walked down the road, down the street, on the sidewalk, and was standing there filming for a good 10 minutes. He's the foreman. I don't know. He was sitting in his car doing nothing, so he was some kind of high up. But after 10 minutes, he came to the other side, and he told me that I can't be past the road close sign without a hard hat. And I asked him, is the sidewalk closed? No, you just need a hard hat and pass the road close signs. That's fine. When we were walking out, I asked him, who is behind this? Oh no, did you see that was my first question. Did you see the chemicals? He's like, no, I don't remember us seeing anything. I said, well, who's behind? Is the EPA behind, testing all this, looking at all this? Because they said this wasn't their project. And he informed me that the EPA is down there every day, checking that site. So that all came from, I'm not calling for it. I guess that's his biggest title, I guess. The following day, now this is unproved info. This came from a source, so I haven't been able to prove it. So take it for what it is. I was told they have another crane down there, and then they have the pumps. And the crane doesn't belong to ODOT. The crane is up from the derailment site. The 2 pumps are from the derailment site. The corrugated steel they're going to stick in the ground was never planned until after the fish kill. That is from the derailment
That's
site.
so important. Somebody needs to see the original building plans of that bridge.
I was thinking I could tell you that.
And why they made that corrugated wall now.
Yeah.
If they changed the plans after the fish kill,
Yeah, so this was all after, after the fish kill, they decided to do these pumps and do all this, bypassing. I was down there last night. I took photos. They've got so many just steel plates wrapped around sulfur to try to keep the water out from where they're digging by the bridge. It looks like a Jenga puzzle on the way down there. I don't know how it works. But they do have a pump running. The water must be getting in there. They have a pump running that is sucking the water out of there. Now, you go down in the daytime to verify how this works, because they weren't working when I was down there. But they have the hose running up onto the bank, okay? And it looks like the hose runs into this black bag. It's sitting on a bed of gravel, and you can see where the water exits and flows down into the creek, a little bit farther down. So that explains why the creek was muddy that day. That's what took me down there to stumble upon what we found earlier.
so now let's just update. And Eve, can you say your last name?
Andrews.
Eve Andrews. We want to thank you for coming down.
Oh.
Because something I said to Rich today. Eve Andrews, environmentalist, that's a mouthful. Environmentalist journalist from Pittsburgh. And then Rebecca, I don't know if you, okay, she's just anonymous. So,
Oh, no, I don't know.
okay, do I just want to thank you, and we thank you, because very little is being said about all this going on in East Palestine and Rich McHugh. I actually got his boot signed. I want to thank News Nation, because they just relentlessly keep on this story. Rich writes at the risk of life and limb. We took him in the creek today, and he went and filmed the chemical contamination that was found by Randy yesterday or today? I don't remember. Yesterday. He texted me after work, and he said, "Oh, look what I found." And I'm like, "Oh, shit." Because first I said, don't, like, we made an agreement, don't call us an emergency. Yeah. And I already told him I was in trouble. But maybe we should, if there's nothing else you can think of, maybe we should end with this. So you mentioned, this is our hometown. You're not going to stop us. You are lying to us. What happened when, so I'm headed, I said, when you were down there, I said, I'm not getting a haircut. I'm bored. Yeah. He said, they won't let us in, we got hard hats. So I'm meeting later, half hour later, with hard hats from Lowe's. And we're in the construction site. So you're not going to stop us. You're lying to us. I know people in town think we're crazy. A lot of people are maybe angry, maybe thinking we're conspiracy theorists. If we were to take any one of you down to care about your children, and we show you these chemicals firsthand, I don't know, in a crazy world, you still might say, I don't care, I don't give a crap. But I believe most of you parents would care. And maybe that's putting, we're getting a construction loan, we're looking to get out after 30 years. I get emotional because I don't want to leave. Because, we built a beautiful home there, we target practice back there, and where we're moving, it's not a wooded area. But I will tell you that there are people in East Palestine that are very sick. They're getting sick from these chemicals. I do not understand, if this is America, what is going on here. I do believe that most parents would be concerned if they saw what we saw. It's very disheartening when maybe people are just reading the paper at home and they're reading what the EPA says, when they're seeing what the EPA is saying on the local news, how everything is clean and there's no chemicals. And they're not going to go look in the creeks, and they're not going to venture out of their homes. People have their lives, they work really hard, they go home, they spend their time with their families, and they expect the government to not lie to them, but we're being lied to. So, anything else, Randy?
I think that's about it.
Okay. Well, I should say, any of you small group here have any questions? If not, that's good. All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Rich, you waiting around for your thing? Is that why?